Happy video day, guys, and happy Make Up Your Mind Day. So today we have another Make Up Your Mind because a brand new palette released. Isn't that a shocker? A new week, a new palette, and this week's palette is from Wayne Goss. So Wayne Goss is actually a makeup artist. He's also a creator here on YouTube, and he has released a bunch of different things. I actually own one of his eyeshadow brushes, very good quality. So when he released his brand new palette, I was very excited. It's going to retail for $55 US. And guys, I was intrigued by this palette, and I know, wait, because I read the comments on Trend Mood, and I know a lot of people are thinking this is boring. But I have to tell you guys, I am somebody who believes that boring can sometimes be a good thing. So I just want to start off with that. Even though I would say the color story itself doesn't have like that pop of color, it doesn't have that eye-catching thing to it, there's a thought, there's a theory here, there's something very pretty going on. So that's the reason it caught my attention. Another thing that he pointed out, which honestly is probably the biggest seller for me, what he mentioned is that the palette itself has been tested on more mature skin. So it's kind of like highly tested on people over 40. And I think that's a really important demographic that I think sometimes a lot of brands leave out because they're so quick on wanting to come out with the coolest palettes. Oh my god, I want to be so in, so modern, that sometimes they forget that there's a huge generation of people that the formula of the shadows may not look that great on their lids. The huge metallics, you know, like these type of things sometimes at a certain point with certain people, they just don't look as good anymore. Charlotte Tilbury has done it really good, that I feel like her formula is great for younger, and as you progress and get more mature, you still feel like her formula looks great on the lids. And I have this theory that Wayne Goss's brand is kind of trying to be reminiscent of a Charlotte Tilbury. So either way, that was the selling point to me. I thought that the color story was very pretty, and I also love the fact that he is really focusing in on mature skin, and I think that's great. I mean, I'm not no 20-something-year-old. I mean, I'm gonna be 40 in a few years. But yeah, so we're gonna do a Make Up Your Mind, because even though all of those things are really calling my attention, I'm trying my best not to add things to my collection that I really don't think I need. So if it's a color story that I already own a million times over, even if I really am so intrigued by it, I'm trying not to pick it up. And a lot of you guys have felt the same way. You feel like over the past few years, when the makeup industry has just boomed out of nowhere, everybody has picked up so many eyeshadow palettes. And if you guys have seen, eyeshadow palettes are releasing every single week. So at a certain point, we need to hold back and, you know, start being creative before purchasing new shadow palettes. So that is what I am doing here. We're gonna go into this one. I'm gonna show you guys what I found in my collection that looks similar to it, and then at the end I always make up my mind and tell you guys whether I'm going to pick it up or not. Now for today's Insta challenge, I did post this image on my Instagram, and I asked you guys, what palette do you think I'm trying to mimic? And these are all the people who guessed it correctly. So thank you guys so much for entering into the Insta challenge. If you guys want to be featured in my next Make Up Your Mind, all you have to do is follow me over on Instagram at Christina Brooke Beauty. Wait for me to post this type of image with swatches, and just tell me what palette you think I'm going to mimic, and you can get featured in my next video. So either way, let's get into this. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of swatches to go over, so let's get into it right now. So the first thing I always do is show you guys my swatches compared to the brand swatches. So this is what I was able to come up with. I feel like a few of the tones are pretty spot on, some of them not as perfect, and you know, there really is a lot of shades of brown, and depending on the color stories that I have been releasing lately, there's usually certain browns that keep on repeating themselves because they just go good with the color stories that are repeating themselves. So there is a few tones in here that gave me a little harder of a time to find, so I did have to add more palettes than I originally thought I was going to. I did go into one palette that I'm going to tell you guys is a love of mine, but you can't buy it no more. It is the I Think I Love You from Colourpop, and I love this palette. I love this palette. You can't get it anymore, but it's pretty great. But we're going to talk about this one. I also jumped into the Huda Beauty Smokey Obsession. I got a few colors that I also could have found in here from the Charlotte Tilbury Icon palette, but to try to get the finishes better, I had to add this one in. And then finally, because there was one shade that is very unique to me, I had to jump into Gold palette from Natasha Denona to get one shade, which you guys probably know which one it is. But yeah, so I had to get 4 palettes. I will tell you guys, and I'm going to start off this video by saying that I could dupe this entire palette just with this, but I won't have the finishes correct, or at least not good enough. There's some metallics in here that are the same colors as his palette, but they're metallics. So this palette literally has all the tones, except for that Celestial one, has every single one, just the finishes are not perfect. So that's kind of cool. I mean, I have to say it's kind of cool because I do love this palette. But anyways, let's get into the first shade. So for the first shade, it looks to me like a champagne kind of metallic tone. I think he said that there's 3 satins in here. So this tone actually may be a little bit more satin than it is metallic, but the only tone that I could actually find that I was like, okay, well, this looks kind of similar is when I went into the Colourpop palette, there's this color right here on the top. It is a little bit more of like a metallic, but this swatch of his looked a little bit more metallic, and there's also this one inside Charlotte Tilbury. So I mean, I have 2 that look kind of similar to what I'm seeing here. They do have a little bit more of a champagne-y gold twist to them. Now the only difference between these is that I believe his is more of a satin, so it's probably not going to have as much shine to it. So I'm interested in that. That does kind of call my attention a little bit, but I do like these 2. They're very, very pretty shades. So if I go on to the next one, so the next one actually gave me a little bit of a harder time. I noticed that within the first few shades, there was a few cool tones in here that looked a little cooler than have released lately, because I think everything lately has been very warm. So what I did was I grabbed this color inside of the Colourpop palette, and it literally is the closest one in my collection that I can find to this tone. I have other palettes that have a lighter taupe-ish color, but all of them lean so warm. And as I was swatching and swatching and swatching, I kept trying to find this tone, but every single palette that I would pick up, I would be like, ooh, this is warm. Ooh, this is too warm. And there was one from Marc Jacobs that I just picked up, but it went too rosy. So the only palette that I could find in my entire collection that had something similar is this. And I have to stop right now and just let you guys know that when I use this palette, if you guys see the dent in this, I don't know if you guys can tell, there is a huge dent in this color alone, because when I used to jump into this palette, that was one of the tones that I loved to blend shades out. And especially using it with a black, it really helped to blend. So that's a really important, very pretty shade. I don't see that often in a lot of the palettes that I have picked up lately, and I really like that shade. Whether it be a little warmer in his new palette or not, I'm not sure, but it looks pretty similar. So the next one is a black. And I do know that he kind of mentioned that a lot of his palettes may have blacks in them. I like that idea, but at the same time, because his pan sizes are so big, I feel like having a black in every palette may deter a lot of people from purchasing all of the palettes, because once you have a black that big, you don't really want to have like a black in every single palette. I don't know about you guys, but I would feel like it's already going to be a little bit of a waste of a color. But maybe if he could do something like a half pan of the black or something like that, so that it's not so much black, but that's just my opinion, and who cares what I think. But the black, I found it inside Colourpop, but also the black I find inside of Charlotte Tilbury. Charlotte Tilbury's formula is the one that I think is going to be closer to his, so this black is the one that I picked. Beautiful black. Charlotte Tilbury's blacks are amazing. They literally blend and melt into the skin. That's what I'm wearing. Obviously, I always try to create a look, at least most of the time, of an eye look that you could probably create if you purchase this palette, and that's what I was trying to mimic here. For the next tone, I also went into Charlotte Tilbury. There's this gorgeous color down here. Now, I do believe that she calls this one a satin too, and it's like a warmer brown that almost when you swatch it, it gives it a little bit like an orangey look to it. This is like almost the same color. Like, I feel like this is going to be almost the same color. It's the color that you guys can see peekabooing through my lid right now, and it's such a beautiful color to mix with black. And I have them both in this palette, to be honest. Like I do. I have them both sitting right next to each other. But what a beautiful combination it actually did. And when I was doing this eye look, I was like, damn, that's a really pretty combo. So it's a really nice color to have in this type of palette. So here is another one that gave me a little harder of a time to find because I feel like this is a little bit warmer than I found. But the only brown that I can get that I felt like was close was this one right here inside of the Huda Beauty palette. It's a little bit cooler, but gosh, I had a hard time finding this exact brown. So I swatched a bunch of browns, and a lot of the browns that I have, they have a really strong orangey undertone to them, like almost like they go red, you know, because a lot of palettes have been so warm lately. This one almost to me looks like a true brown that's a little cooler, but it has some warmth. So I had a hard time finding this shade. The closest that I could find was the one that's inside of Huda Beauty, and I'm not 100% sure if that one's going to be spot on, but it is one of those shades that when you start blending it with other colors, I mean, it's gonna blend into each other. So it's a very pretty shade. It would probably be, like, in my opinion, the substitute to the black. So if you don't want to do a really dark black look, you can use that. You can use that color to sharpen out your outer edges and stuff to kind of do a little bit of a lighter look. And then for the last color, this is also one that's a little bit difficult for me to find because this is a special formula for him. It's a celestial formula. And I believe that it's going to be a little bit more sheared out with maybe some type of like reflective particles in it. That's what I kind of understand. And I was looking through a lot of my palettes and a lot of them don't have that type of formula. Only palette that I really could remember was in Natasha Denona. There's this beautiful color up here that looks bright white, but when you swatch it, it's actually kind of like a sheerish shade with a lot of like glitter particles in it. When you apply it, you can make it look very sheared out, or you can apply it thick and then you can make it look very glittery. So that's the thing. So that's what I thought this shade could be like, okay? So this look is kind of similar to using, actually, I think I used almost every single color in this look. But so that is it. All right, editing Christina, I wanted to jump in really quick just to tell you guys that I did look into Tati Beauty, and the textured neutrals down here on the bottom, some of these shades you may be able to come up with a similar color story, but I do feel like the Tati Beauty one goes a little bit warmer than the new palette from MUYM Goss. And then also I jumped into Jaclyn Hill and I was looking at this one. I also feel like there's some cooler shades that are missing. And I feel like Jaclyn Hill goes a little bit warm. But I will say between both of these two palettes, if you own these, you're probably going to be able to create something similar. Not exact, but similar with these two palettes. Now, since I am probably going to be purchasing the MUYM Goss palette, I will tell you guys if there's more similarities. But as of right now, I believe that the new palette is going to be different enough for me to add it, even though I have these two palettes. So I just wanted to include this too, because I figured maybe you guys had questions about these two palettes. But this is what I'm thinking so far. I think they're gonna be similar, but different enough for me to want to pick up the new palette. So as you guys can see, I did find this palette. I found it. Now, this is the part that may shock some of you guys, because I know a lot of you guys going into it were probably saying she is not gonna want this palette, because why would she? It's like basic colors. I bet you she has these like 500 times over, and I get you, but I'm going to make up my mind and say that I am most likely going to pick this up, okay? Now, hear me out. The reason is I love this palette from Colourpop. I've had this palette for, I want to say, going on 3 to 4 years now, and I love this palette. Now this palette is going to go bad on me. I mean, and they don't sell a replacement for it. I can't buy it again. And I love that palette so much. Now I love Charlotte Tilbury's formula. It's one of my favorite formulas, but I always have to wait every year until she releases like these bigger palettes, because I don't really like to buy the 4-pan palettes for so much money. I just don't think it's worth it, even though her formula is great. I wait until she releases these big palettes because they have the same formula and you get a lot of colors. So I like this color story so much. And I like it so much, and I like the fact that I think he's going, which I don't know 100%, but I think he's going in a formula maybe similar to a Charlotte Tilbury that to me, it almost feels like I really want to get this. I feel like it's like the best of both worlds for me. A really nice formula that is geared for more mature skin, a very pretty color story that's very easy to use. It's like one of those awesome add-on palettes, or you can use it like everyday looks, or you can mix it, make it deeper, you can make it lighter. It has colors that I really enjoy. I like the color story. I think it's really elegant. There's something about this palette, it really calls to me. I will be honest, the huge pan sizes, even though I know a lot of people like that and I understand the point of it, I didn't need it. But I feel like if I bought this palette, I probably have this palette for many, 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 many years as my base palette, and I could just mix it with other things, or I can use it on its own. I think it looks like it's a beautiful palette, and like I said in the beginning of the video, sometimes boring things are worth the money because you may actually use them so many times. And this type of palette to me is like an everyday palette, maybe one that I would even travel with, because if I wanted to do a dramatic eye like this is perfect for going out at night, but and then at the same time I can use some of the lighter shades and do something a little bit more day, and it's all just in one palette. So I'm very intrigued. I think that this looks beautiful. I know that it's not the most innovative color story, but when you think of color selection and the way that he incorporated some interesting tones here, I think it was an interesting color story. And he didn't release a brown palette and just have it little shade differences of brown. And then it would be like, okay, like that's boring, you know? This one, the orangey brown, what a cool combination with this black. Also, what a cool deeper brown that's a little bit warmer but has some coolness to it. This awesome like celestial shade that you can put right on top of all of these different tones, and it doesn't like interfere. There's no like pop of fuchsia in here that really doesn't go with anything but like one color. I like this. I like this. Call me boring. I'm buying it. I think that this is beautiful. So I don't know. That's what I think. So if you guys are looking into it, I definitely think that for me personally, it's worth the buy. I'm pretty sure you guys are definitely going to be seeing me review this product, and of course I'll try to match it up to the colors that I found in Make Up Your Mind to see if they were similar, but yeah, that's where we stand. So I've been doing pretty good with buying stuff lately, guys. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I have. I've been a little bit more interested in a few palettes that have come out recently, so that's a good thing, I guess. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave me your comments down below. Let me know, what do you guys think? Are you interested? Are you not? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later.